Greetings, my DHDs, fellow DHGs. This is going to be our general guidance read, or more specifically, maybe for those of you who are creatives, I always say it like that, musicians and creatives. So, this message has been coming to me for a minute, and I'm going to use the Hip Hop Queens Oracle and the Grunge Tarot. So, they're musical based, obviously, both decks. Um, so, yeah, I'm going to combine these two. Um, so, this could definitely be for those of you that are musicians, or you want to get into writing, songwriting, or you are a songwriter, or you are a um, musician in the sense of you use instruments, or you produce. I would include producing, musically producing, as like an instrument in a sense. Your voice is an instrument, so you can apply this however it resonates, or maybe maybe you guys also have like um, a desire to do treatments for music videos. I know that when I was little, like that was something I was heavily like. I always admired music video like production, and like when I used to watch, I don't know, I might be telling my age, or maybe not. So you could be older if you remember like back in the days MTV, or you could have been young at the time when MTV would show making, what was it, behind the video or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but they would show you the making of the music video. I loved watching that. I loved watching how it all came together. And I even like at times thought about making music videos. Like I would listen to music. This is so funny. Now I'm even remembering this. But I would listen to like songs, and in my head I would visualize a music video out of it. Even if a music video never existed for that particular song, I would listen to a song and I would visualize an actual video. So some of you guys, that could, you could have visual, like you could want to be a music video director or a movie director, like cinematic um, giftings you might have. So this could resonate with you as well. Now I was getting the message the other day, and I wish I would have written what I was picking up down, like what downloads were coming to me, but I kept hearing something about social media influencing, and this ties into the message I've been getting for quite some time, as far as people that are, um, you know, being called to be influences in different spaces, in particular, spaces where they feel like they wouldn't fit or they wouldn't belong, or amongst people that are well established or have been in the game for quite some time. Um, and I feel like there's a demand on influence, but influencer, if you look up, I knew I needed my phone. I knew someone told me, you're gonna need your phone, but this isn't the right phone. I'm just gonna look up the word influencer because it has two meanings to it. But influencers nowadays is like more so for marketing schemes and for selling products, whether it's facial products, whether it's makeup, whether it's clothing brands, whether it's agendas. And because children and adults look up to athletes and musicians and models and average everyday people that are being placed in a position of high influences, high numbers of followers and subscribers, they use these particular people to sell things. And to me, that is a dark side of influence, not a positive level of influence. So if you look up the word influencer, it has two definitions. One, the noun itself, it says a person or thing that influences another, obviously, right? The marketing version of it, or meaning or definition, is a person with the ability to influence potential buyers of a product or service by promoting or recommending the items on social media. So that's really what an influencer is. So if you think about these so-called influencers, are they really influencing in a positive light? And yes, there are positive influencers that do exist, that are maybe selling products for healing purposes, natural products that they actually use. They're not selling you fit teas and BBLs, you know what I mean? Like this is true influence, or how many diamonds they got, and their how many cars they got, their Gucci belts. They're actually being of an influence, right? And there is going to come a time where these influences are going to be replaced in a sense, or they're not going to be as influential anymore, because people are actually looking for something different. And when it comes to the entertainment industry, there's a long way to go when it comes to people coming in a position where they can thrive on their own. Yes, you can. You can thrive on your own independently without, the scams of some of these people. Allegedly some of these record labels. They got little stuff that they do. Allegedly, I have to say that. And someone that was close to me was about to get signed to a record label, and what they told me was that they didn't want another India Ari. They didn't want another Brandy. These are what she said. These are the artists that she named. But instead, they wanted to market her as a more Rihanna type. And this was a big label. Of course, I can't say what label it was, um, but they have an agenda that they want to push. And to be a creative, anyone that is a creative, whether it's music, whether it's some other form of art, to have somebody tell you that no, we don't work with you, or we don't want to work with you unless you forfeit your gifting, unless you forfeit a part of yourself or your style or your morals or your content, we'll elevate you, but you got to do it like this, right? And Pink said that in one of her songs. Like, it was a popular song that she called out L.A. Reid for trying to sell her as an R&B artist, right? When she actually wanted to do pop rock type music. That was who she was. So she came out and we knew her as this R&B person, and she has a dope voice, but that wasn't her initial lane that she wanted to go. But in order to get the deal, allegedly, she had to do that. So I do believe that because we're in the age of knowledge and wisdom, that is what people want. So for those of you that are truth speakers in any type of way, or you want to tell a story, whether it's visually, whether it's lyrically, whether it's in your clothing, whether it's in books, whatever it is that you want to do, or you want to heal in different ways, whether it's literally with nutrition or cosmetics or whatever it is, I feel like there will be room made for you, because they're starting to kind of, if you notice, I predict in a few years that they're going to want this, because they're generically doing it. They're using people that they're selling these fake products, allegedly, that are no GMO and go green, and it's not really the case. And then they're uplifting artists that are projecting this fake neo soul, hippie type vibe, but they may not really live that. And you notice some artists might capitalize off of certain spiritual terms and stuff like that. And this stuff is nothing new, like tarot and chakras and stuff that are very popular right now and very kind of commercialized in a sense. But the people that actually are about that in a light way, when I say light, meaning working in the light to shed light on darkness, that is what a light worker is. You're both, pretty much you're a light worker and a shadow worker. You're doing the deep, dark, rooted stuff that most people don't want to deal with. They want to gloss over it. They want to glamorize it, right? Or they don't, it's negative. It's too much. Rather than being the light, shedding light in the darkness. And that's why that message of spirit is saying that a lot of people are going to be planted in environments. It's comfortable to stay amongst people that are like you, right? People that are on the same stuff that you're on. You guys all, know the lingos. You study, you meditate, you pray. But to be placed in an environment with people who are not like you, that's a whole nother thing. And you're not to influence in the sense of influencing people, like force feeding them, because that's the false influence. that we see now, where people are it's being shoved down our throats constantly through repetition, through commercials and ads and stuff like that, to appeal to the masses, to get them to want something or think that it's desirable. They have to paint it and market a certain way. So for those that are divine influencers, their energy, their light speaks for itself. It glorifies God, right? The divine. It glorifies love. It glorifies joy, happiness, truth, integrity, courageousness, authenticity, so on and so forth. So it's going to speak for itself. It's not something that is being forced upon. It's authentic. So it's easy to, like I said, be placed in environments. And God speaks in the most beautiful ways. There's this video that I kept overlooking that would come up on my YouTube suggestions. And it was a pastor from New Zealand, or minister in New Zealand, that he left his entire ministry. He was a big, like, he had those kind of like mega churches. It was like, what's it called? Like the current age type churches, like those mega churches where it's not like that gospel, like that old Southern type church, but it's more, modern. And he was doing really good. And he said that he had become stuck in the church and creating the best programs and concerts and sermons and things like that, but he wasn't really reaching the people. So it's like, how am I going to be an influence here just in the church, but when it comes to being amongst the world with other people and being a light, or I'm paraphrasing, but basically what he's saying, like being the one that comes and sheds the light of God or the truth of God. How am I to say that, And he quoted a scripture in the Bible that says, God, I did this for you. I prophesied to people. I healed this person. I healed the sick. I did this. I did that. But it's like, if you're planted in just that one place of comfortability and reaching people, obviously, that want it, rather than going into spaces and being being a light in a dark space where people may really need that light, but can't find it or don't know how to, or they feel like they're stuck in a lifestyle, or they're stuck in a pattern, they're stuck. So if you're being placed in somewhere that's uncomfortable, and that's what I'm getting, like, there's going to be a time where I feel like people that are truly of light, that are not, they belong to the divine, they are a part of the divine order, okay? The true divine order, the true divine elite, true elite, of those that are covered and in that umbrella of the divine. It's going to be a time where you guys will be elevated. It's because right now it's like I said, there's a market that is slowly being utilized, but it's to sell products. It's not authentic. They want to sell products to people that want that are seeking truth and seeking light, who may be attracted to spiritual things, spirituality, and they're doing it in a way that is covert and very demonic. So when you come forth, it's like you are that. And of course they may be in it for themselves, but the scripture is that whatever the enemy uses for our bad, our detriment, actually God uses it for the greater good, period. So, and that's what I'm getting. Like, there will be a time, like, and I'm not the only one that is getting this or senses this or knows this truth. It's going to be created a way for you, not because of just like personal reasons, like, oh, because of me, things are going to shift or to change. But no, it's already making way now. They're just doing it and utilizing people that are not really about that life. People that already have these so-called influences and things like that. So-called influences. So if you're a dancer, I didn't mention that. Dancers, stylists, makeup artists, directors, songwriters, producers, you have that element. And there are some artists that I think Janae is one of them, and Chris Brown, that use high frequencies in their music, if I'm not mistaken. I know that for a fact with Janae because she said it. She said that she uses a certain megahertz for different songs, for healing frequencies and things like that. I feel that is touching on, for those that will be in music production and things like that. And they're making way for you to to bring that and usher that in a authentic and divine way. And you're not going to be an influence by hiding yourself, downplaying yourself, staying in the four walls, and being an influence may. And I've been getting this message lately too, that being an influence does not mean that it's only subject to social media. I've also came across another post that really blessed me. Was a community post on YouTube where this girl was talking about how she started off on Instagram delivering messages to people, and then the divine God told her that within a certain amount of days, or after she posted a certain amount of videos on Instagram, that she would have to migrate her messages somewhere else because that group was for a time and they were only supposed to get a certain amount of the message. Now it's time to pretty much graduate to a higher level and deliver to a bigger audience the divine message that she was being given. So she shifted to YouTube, and her YouTube channel is doing really good with her messages. So, or the divine messages, God messages. So her, what she was saying was that pretty much is that when you're called to a certain space for a time, and I'm sure some of you know this, like, you're not always going to be planted in that one place. I remember, I know I'm just talking to you guys, but I feel like this is a message within itself. I probably will do like a part 2. I'm going to title this video differently so no one gets it misconstrued that it's going to be a reading. I'll probably do a part 2 because I didn't know I was going to go into all of this. But I remember back in 2020, I believe it was, or was it 21? I can't remember. I think it was November 2020. And at that time, I was going through a period of not knowing what I was supposed to do, because at that time, I was like, I don't believe God wants me doing this anymore. And I need to step away from the cards, and I stopped using them. I kept giving, I kept doing readings, or I wouldn't even call them readings, but more so just still giving people guidance and giving them messages and stuff like that without the cards. But I noticed that it was a drop in my subscribers on my other channel. I noticed that it was a change, and I noticed people, just stopped booking readings because, and it showed, how heavy reliant we are on tools and cards rather than being vessels for the divine or speaking. Even though we have those giftings and stuff like that, we put a lot of emphasis in the cards. Power all in the cards and trust in the cards, right? So that was something that was very revealing. So while it was like, I took a 2-week vacation because one of my family members invited me to stay with them while they were away on business in California, and I spent like 2 weeks in a hotel and just had time to really sit with God. And it was the scariest time of my life because I'm like, I don't know what to do now, because I kind of created and centered my life rather around this thing, this calling or this purpose at the time, or a part or an extension of my purpose and my calling. And I made it kind of like my life in a sense, and my identity wrapped around it. So when it was kind of like I needed to step away from it for a time, I was like, I don't know what to do. And then a revelation came to me that, maybe it's that God doesn't want you necessarily to stop reaching the people, but the audience or in the way that you're doing it right now may not be fit at this time. So something clicked in me to reach out to an associate that had allowed me to read in their space, their business. They allowed me to set up and read and sell my jewelry and stuff like that. And I prayed and I said, if it's meant for this to happen, they're going to let me know. Because I reached out to them and they were like, there's a girl that's supposed to come in, a tarot reader that's supposed to come in tonight, but if she doesn't show up, I'll hit you up tomorrow and the space is yours whenever you want it, right? So needless to say, I'm like, I prayed about it. I said, God, if it's meant to be, if this is you sending me out to reach people, personally, hands-on, not just on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, social media, then, you know, I'll leave it. I'm not going to reach out to him. I'm going to allow him to reach out to me if he remembers to do it, whatever. The next morning, he DMs me and was like, she never showed. The place is yours, blah, blah, blah. You can set up whenever you want to. And I was like, thank you, God, because, and at that time, it was, I had reached people. I had, you know, had the option to also be more open because I'm introverted, but at the same time, I can be very extroverted depending on if I'm comfortable with people. So it helped me to be more open, to socialize, to get out of these four walls and just spending all of my time working indoors and at home and online. I actually got to interact with real people in real time. Like, you guys are real, but like physically, you know what I mean? And being able to read, and not only read for people, but just like, because people would always pass by me and be like, your energy, we just love your energy. You bring a different element in here. Like, just goodbye. Some people just would stand by my table all the time and wouldn't say nothing to me, but just be around. And of course, like, because I don't like my space invaded, I'd be like kind of weirded out by it. But I would get compliments often, and people still ask me, like, sometimes when I go up there, like, what happened to your spot? It was only meant to be for a time. Even though, you know, the guy said I could set up whenever I want to, some other stuff happened. But I look at it as a blessing in disguise because it's a time and a place for everything. And my season was up there. You know what I mean? It was time to move and to migrate out of that. So don't be afraid to step out of, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And I feel like social media influence is a big thing, of course, and I'm starting to notice that some people don't use social media as they used to. Some people might be deciding to not get on it so much, you know what I mean, or just they don't find it, and that's because you don't want to be caught up in the illusionary, imaginary world of things to where you're not living life and you're not participating in real life in real time, because there's people out there in the real world that do need help. And I feel like the new influencers mainly, yeah, they're gonna, because technology is a part of our age, so yeah, we're gonna always have that and utilize it, but it's gonna be a time where I feel like a lot of people are not gonna really be so engulfed in that world of things. And the media, the new influencers are going to be out amongst the world being the light, because we really need that right now. The last thing we need is to be distracted on our phones looking at something. That's a trap. So I say all this to say I did not mean to go all into this. I promise I'm going to do a separate reading, but I just wanted to share this message, and I did not think it was going to come out this much. So yeah, you will be the advantage, because there's already a market that's kind of being prepared for those that are meant to be the light, but not knowing that it is. So it could be that people will want to work with more collective of people that are of light and of uniqueness, and not marketed and branded to look like what they want them to look like, and what appeals to the masses, in a way of creating these carbon copies of the same reruns of artists. You know, that, oh, we want another so and so, or not, they want to recycle, and it's going to be dismantled. And I'm seeing it now, because if you look at it, I don't want to call the artists out by name, but there's like a few artists I could say they're trying to create a new 50 Cent or a new Beyonce, and it's just not really working. It may work for a time, but it's not sticking as it once was, because people are seeing through things now. Like, people that pander to certain audiences and they pretend and all that, people see through the schemes of it all. So just know that it's going to continue to happen, and I hope that is helpful. Much love as always. Be blessed, be safe, take care, peace.